I want to thank you, first of all, so much for doing this with me. And thank you for pursuing me. I've been in sales for 35 years and I never had a manufacturer pursue me before. So that was definitely a first. So cheers to you, because you came back from your vacation, you did what you said you were going to do, and so many people don't do that. So I love you already. It's a love fest, Ian.
Appreciate that. Hey, no, look, when I'm part of a leadership team that's based actually all over the country, and the leader of that leadership team about a year ago, he said, "Hey, I want to challenge each of you to work on your own personal PR for yourself." Right. And one of those tasks was to get onto LinkedIn, create your own persona, post weekly without fail, once a week, ideally with a video post because it's more human that way, more engaging. Right. And he said, try to be of service, which is kind of a mantra of my own anyway. So my point on LinkedIn is not to kind of post, great news, the sun came out today, right. Or my dog had puppies. Right. It's more about how can we be of service in our industry to other people, whether it's sharing information about trends or sharing about a new technology or an opportunity for barber stylists or even consumers or even people in our world that maybe need a hand up somehow. So that's kind of why I do this.
I love it. And we can start right there, to be honest with you. And we are prepared for any eventuality. I got a fancy microphone, but it unclamped itself and fell down overnight. So we have another microphone standing by. So we're going to try to work with as few technical difficulties as possible. But I just want to address the LinkedIn, and then I want to address something you wrote to me in our email communications. The funniest thing is so I did the same thing. I said, you know what, you gotta, I want to promote the podcast. There aren't any barbers or stylists on LinkedIn. That's not sort of the world that they live, but that's where all the manufacturers in our industry are at. And I do want to begin working with more manufacturers. And so I went on LinkedIn about 3 or 4 weeks ago, right when we started emailing, and I said, this thing is so stale. I'm gonna change my profile. And I spent a ton of money on assets. Like I have some private branded products. I brought them to a photographer. He photographed them. He photographed me. And we had all this stuff that I did in 2020 that I wasn't using. And I said, I'm gonna use this stuff, and I'm gonna see if I can promote this podcast on LinkedIn. And I changed my profile picture and I added a nice photograph of some of the clippers that he did, some of the shots that he took, which the guy is an amazing photographer. His art is just incredible. And he's 800 feet from me here. And just by doing that, I posted, I think, a blooper video, if I'm not mistaken, where my co-host touched the table and the whole thing collapsed. I
remember seeing that.
I thought it would make people laugh, like we're off to a smashing start, right? And literally everything went smashing, including my brand new $700 laptop. And it worked, it worked for me. And then the only part that hasn't worked is I said, I'm going to post once a week and I'm going to get active and I'm going to invite manufacturers. And I haven't posted since. I haven't been able to find the 5 minutes. So I think I'm halfway there with that, but I think LinkedIn will be a good tool. I want to first welcome you. And for those of you who don't know who Ian Murphy is, Ian is the co-founder and president, among other things, of Bosley MD, which is a leading brand in the fine or thinning hair category. And I actually reached out to Ian to ask him if he would be a guest on my fledgling new podcast. And he graciously agreed to do so. And part of the thing is, like, there's so many stylists and barbers that are not talking about about this category. And so I hope that we can do a deep dive into that, and we will in a moment. But one thing that you did say to me, which I loved, because it was a pretty freaking good question, is you said to me something to the effect of what is it that what are you trying to accomplish with this podcast? And I thought that was a great question. And I'd just like to lead with my answer to that, because I've had a week and a half or 2 weeks to think about it. And I have been thinking about it a lot. It's like, what is it that you're trying to to do with this podcast. And so I want to address that before we get into Bosley, and then the rest of the time is yours. As you may or may not be aware, I've been a manufacturer's rep in the beauty industry for a long time. I spent a good portion of my life with a group. I had the pleasure of working for a gentleman named Stanley Wild, who really, I had been calling on salons up to that point, and I had some good experience. And at that time, which was 1995, if you can believe it, the manufacturer's rep position was the next natural progression for me in my life. I know you're familiar with reps because there was a short period of time, I'm pretty certain I repped you. He's not with us anymore, but I learned more from him than any human being I ever learned in my life. He was a legend in the beauty industry, and his company is now part of another major group in our industry. And so that's like sort of my background. So I'm familiar with manufacturers, I'm familiar with distributors and stylists and barbers, and I'm trying to find a way to be of service to all of them. And so you asked me, what do you want to accomplish with this podcast? And what I've found in my experiences in the beauty industry is that you have your leading brands. Let's say there's top 10 leading brands, and we know what they are. We don't have to name them all off. And, you find them in the big box stores for professional beauty, and you find them with the biggest distributors who always seem to get the companies that come to them because they're the biggest in their given market. And you know all of that. You know how that works. What about the rest of the companies? There's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of secondary and tertiary manufacturers in the beauty industry. Dare I say you could potentially be one of them that have amazing stories to tell. And because of the way that the beauty industry is in 2022, manufacturer, full service distributor, salon, stylist, barbershop, or end consumer, they don't get a chance to tell their story. If you view the professional beauty industry as a funnel, right? The funnel gets filled up really, really quickly with all of these, let's call them legacy brands in the beauty industry. And then what happens is there's a bottleneck, if you will. The funnel gets backed up with all of these other great and some maybe not so great brands that try to find their way into the beauty industry, and they can't. They think the solution is, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find a distributor. They don't understand sometimes the pitfalls that come with that. One of them is, well, a distributor is going to take 40 to 50% of your margin away right away. Another one might be the distributor is not going to give you the attention that you may deserve in his house. And so the purpose of this podcast, if I may, is to lend a voice to all of those companies who the owners of those companies, the people, the management. Right. My goal is to lend a voice to all of those manufacturers and to potentially help them find a way to getting either to their end user, whoever they are, whether they're a consumer or a nail technician or a barber or a stylist. And I read your question, what are you trying to do with this podcast? I'm paraphrasing. And I think that's the goal that I am trying to do. I really, really want to get back to working with manufacturers, not so much in the role of a rep. And I don't want to use the word consultant because I think that's just a overused, word, but I have a lot of knowledge about the beauty industry, and my aim, my wish, my sincerest goal is to help Bosley any way I can. I mean, listen, this podcast is new. I don't have a big listener base, but I have a lot of people following me on Instagram, and they're all stylists and barbers, and that's going to continue to grow. I started this podcast. I had one local gentleman from New England on. He is now part of my podcast. He's going to be my co-host. His name is Oscar Torres. He's barber since 98. And he's got 265,000 people following him on Instagram. And he was, when they launched Booksy, he was with Booksy, and he was able to go around the country and teach stylists and barbers how to use Booksy and how to book properly. And he couldn't be with us today, but he's at a barber show in Philly. But he will be part of this program. But my goal is to have him sit in on some of the conversations where he can lend his expertise at a barber level. And I hope that we can open up the conversation about Bosley to barbers and stylists by using this podcast to give them information about your company and, what you got going on. You mentioned some things to me. When I asked you about what's going on, you said that there's a program through Great Clips, and you have a thinning hair expert program and some different education platforms. So I think that I came across Bosley as a rep. I may be mistaken, but I don't think so. Back, I want to say in maybe, it was back around 2017. So I asked you about what's changed with your company. So you told me you did sort of a top to bottom, review in 2019. So can you tell us what's your direction now and what are the goals of Bosley? Who are you trying to reach, and what methods are you using to reach them?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, thank you. Great. Really appreciate you sharing
my pleasure.
Your vision and your mission. I think it's a great one because
we'll see how effective it is.
No,
we could use help of people like you to help spread the word. And get
right. Well, as always, it's team effort. You said something interesting at the beginning. I think stories sell, not necessarily products and packaging. And I think that's one of the key kind of takeaways here, whether it's a consumer at the shelf, whether it's a stylist at a show, or whether it's a manufacturer trying to pitch internally a new idea. Stories sell, and we love good stories because that's what kind of connects, I think, to our psyche and our interest and passion for the beauty industry. But that aside, to answer also one other point before I roll into my Bosley stick here, I think you really have something bigger than because in the barber industry, which seems to be a core competency of yours, Eric, it's slightly different and it's very sort of maybe general term, but very slightly different than trying to pitch regular hairdressers, whether it be independent booths, which have been blowing up the last few years, right, or full commission salons. So I think you have something quite significant, especially for the more male orientated brands, which is a good segue into your question about, what happened in 2019 when the owners of Bosley gave me a call and said, hey, can you come back and kind of work on this and for us? So the whole thinning hair regrowth category, and I'll call it more hair regrowth category, because I think people are leaning more into gain versus loss these days. They want to think a bit more of a positive message than a negative. And hair loss is like, oh God, but hair growth is like, oh cool. So in this hair growth world, the barber industry is perfect because hey, if you don't have it, you can't cut it. Hello, Captain Obvious, right?
I scratch my head saying, why aren't they more responsive to these clients that have these needs? It doesn't make sense.
That's why I think we're seeing some big success at Great Clips. Great Clips is a great partner. Good. And they've really embodied this. But going back to so came back in kind of midway 2019. And if you look at this category, this hair growth, thinning hair, whatever category, some things have changed over the last 10 plus years. Right. The biggest aha is who is the end consumer now? Because you go back 20, 30 years or so to the Nioxin pioneering days, it was a male play, and the only other opportunity outside of salon was Rogaine when minoxidil was discovered. Other than being a heart medication, it was now figured this thing could work for the hair.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And then it was like, okay, well that's all you got, right? other than if you want to go to a Bosley clinic or a similar place and get a hair transplant. And back then, you go back 20, 30 years ago, it was like, ooh, what's that? And that's kind of, and you could tell the people back there that had hair transplants because they looked pretty obvious compared to where it is today, where it's almost impossible to tell. And incredible new techniques there, which we can get into. But yes, so look, the first thing was I said, okay, well, what's changed? And one of the issues was, who is this end consumer? And now with the whole, I think, Me Too movement, women really embodying their own desires, needs, health and beauty, and not just skin and cosmetics anymore, but hair. Now, this probably got amplified, of course, the last 3 or 4 years when we were stuck at home in front of computers where you could just see this.
Right.
So again, hair care became an important survival mechanism through this last 3 or 4 years of pandemic.
But don't you think there's just as many women that are suffering from things like alopecia?
Oh, absolutely. And right. The difference is, because I asked exactly this very same question to Dr. Ken Washenik, who is the chief medical officer about 5 miles that way. I'm by the beach in LA, and Beverly Hills over that way where Bosley head office is. And he said, yeah, the difference is there's more solutions now available for women. And so with that in mind, a survey just came out. I was mentioning it on LinkedIn. There was a little story I wrote up there from a publication called the Global Cosmetics Industry.
I saw that. Yep.
Right. And it talks about how the first port of call for a woman when she has a hair issue is not a shampoo. It's not a treatment. Unfortunately, it's not her hairdresser. It's to go and buy a supplement. To go buy a vitamin, right? So it's changed. So the first thing was, look, women are now the driving force in this category, to be quite honest, at least today. And some of the younger people are now saying, hey, that don't look like Pops, and his hair's like kind of gone.
But a straight biotin supplement is super effective, right? When taken
very much so, which is why you would ask me about these hair vitamins and what they really work. And absolutely, I was about 2 or 3 months ago, a beauty industry guru in the pro world, a lady called Sydney Berry called me, had multiple challenges with cancer over the last number of years. And she said to me, hey, do you have anything that can work that's non-drug? I said, absolutely. So I sent her some hair vitamins and a couple other things. She's like, wow, this stuff really works. And I'm like, yeah, it does. So it's not just smoke and mirrors, but obviously for everyone, it's slightly different. So the women portion for sure, the younger people. So now we have to kind of change the products that we have. If we keep ramming out the same stuff all the time, we're going to get the same results, as you know. So we're still thinking about what can we service women and other people with. That was one of the issues we had. And we kind of addressed that about 6 months ago with an interesting concept called Mend Extend. This is a great story. So my babysitter comes over.
Yeah.
Stringy blonde, chemically treated hair. Yep. And she's like, who do you work for? Is it a boss? She's like, oh, the hair company. I'm like, yeah. Just, can you do something for me? I'm like, oh God, I'm not a doctor. I was a marketing person.
You can raise the sick, but you can't wake the dead.
Exactly, not Lazarus. Anyway, so I said, well, let me think about that. And we came up with the concept, this concept that would basically keep growing hair here, but it would mend and extend the hair in the mid-shaft area here.
Wow.
And we've just launched it, and it is now our number one selling product at Ulta last week. It's in our top 10 in our pro channel with people like BSG Cosmoprof and Saloncentric, and it's taking off in our other channel. So we've also resonated, I think, with women in that way. So that was an important part. And then the other, I think, axis that we had to look at was, well, where are consumers and stylists getting these types of products from today? And of course, pandemic comes along, shut down a whole bunch of pro salons and barber shops, but even before that came along, it was very obvious that consumers were going into the likes of CVS and Walgreens for drugstore type minoxidil products and for hair and nail vitamins.
Right.
They're going, of course. It's still somewhat into salons for some of the answers there, because you can obviously get more hands-on physical kind of examination.
Right.
But there were other channels, QVC, home shopping type of programs were making their way off of TV onto the internet.
Right.
And the internet, of course, with Amazon exploding over the last 3 to 5 years, probably got us all through the pandemic, right? You can order anything there, from hair products to food, and you name it.
Right.
New bed, car. So
I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon.
you know it is, isn't it? You know, I mean, I could go into that rabbit hole, but we'll leave that.
No.
But yeah, look, I mean, so you got food, drug, and mass outlets. You got hair salons. You got QVC. You got online stuff. You got of course, like I said, our own kind of distribution channels of a website. So the consumers will go into many more places than they were 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
So we have to address that strategy too. And in fact, we had an offsite. I take my team offsite once a quarter to kind of take a pulse on what we're doing. It's kind of like that movie with Michael J. Fox. You remember back in the day, Back to the Future? So we kind of have these Back to the Future moments 3 or 4 times a year where we say, hey, what's been going on and where do we want to go?
Right.
And one of these, or two big areas that we've been looking at recently is medical. Because there are a lot of doctors and nurses out there.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
There's a huge opportunity there with doctors and nurses saying, hey, how do I talk about people losing their hair, especially with what's been going on with COVID and stress and everything else, right? And then also barbershops. How do we get more involved with barbershops and who to talk to?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so help is on the way. That's the great news. This is how.
Yeah. Because it's a different kettle of fish.
Right. So let's just explore that for a quick minute. We got barbershops, right? I have over 500 of them in New England. You know, I don't have 500 barbershops, but I have at least 3 people in every barbershop that buy from me. So I spend my days, Tuesday through Saturday, on a direct store. I call it like DSD, direct store delivery route, where I built from the ground up. I built it in about 2.5 years. It's doing well now. It's doing really, really well. It was hard in the beginning because all of these barbers were buying my products already, like when I was the Andis rep. I just didn't have any relation. They didn't know me. You know, reps are invisible. They work behind the scenes. But I called on beauty salons in my young professional life. I did it for years. I was the top KMS sales rep in this part of the country. I got a huge bonus. I almost won a car. The girl next to me won the car. I could go on and on, but the point I'm making is not that. The point I'm making is I know how to call on barbershops and beauty salons. I know what it takes to get their attention, and I know how to make them customers. I have the ear of every major barbershop in Southern New England. What's the conduit from Bosley to them? How do we get them to talk about your product without, because I know what they're going to say, well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm going to tell you, they've never been super effective retailers. It's worse now than it's ever been. I mean, you go in a barbershop, they got hats, they got shirts, they got, what do you call them, Ben? Jeezys, Wheezies, Yeezys, Yeezys. They get Yeezys. I think I call them sneakers. Maybe you call them gym shoes, you know, but they got the sneakers, the athletic shoes out there. They got the hats. I said to them, every person that sits in your chair leaves your barbershop and goes somewhere to buy something to put in their hair. Explain to me why it's important to you to sell them a t-shirt, but it's not important to consult with them while they're in your chair. When they're in your chair, they're captive. You have their attention, okay? What is Bosley doing? Now, barbershops came up in your field trip. What was the result of that suggestion? What are you doing?
Yeah. You know, you made an absolutely fantastic point. This has been, of course, one of the challenges of our industry at least since I came into it, and I started with Redken in the UK in 19. Oh Lord, here we go. The date is right here. In I think 1993.
Right.
And there was a brilliant, so there was a couple of iconic people in the beauty industry working for Redken, of course, back then.
Right.
One was the head of international, a guy called Arthur Long, brilliant Scottish guy. I mean, but there was a couple of people there, and I remember the head of sales training, David, and also Joan Newton, the head of education, telling me, this is sales through education. This is how the way this beauty industry works, and how hairdressers will say, I'm an artist, not a salesperson.
Right.
And that leads to another little story that came up. So a German distributor walked into my office about 3 years ago when I came back to Bosley, and sat down and said, I don't think this is going to work for me. I'm thinking already, well, why are you here?
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, we're both busy people. How can I help you? And I said, so what's the problem? I said, hey, Joe, have a coffee, but at least make your trip here worthwhile. Right. And he said, what's the problem? And so he says, we had a thinning hair brand here in Germany that P&G forced us to take. I think you know which one it is.
Right. And
it sat on the shelf collecting dust, and we had to take it because we had to take the rest of the Weller products. And I said, okay, so why did it sit on the shelf? He's like, well, no one knew anything about it. I said, okay, so let me tell you something. If you had a way to inform, educate, empower, train, motivate hairdressers, barbers in 60 minutes, where they could know about how to talk to a consumer, man or woman, how the physiology of the hair works, man or woman, how to prescribe a product, man or a woman, and help be able to have that conversation because now they're an expert. Wouldn't that be better? He's like, yeah, but we never had that. So what we do, it's called the Thinning Hair Expert Program. It's a 1-hour online proprietary course. We've been signing up hairdressers, hundreds each month for the last couple of years now, to be thinning hair experts. They go online and they take this little quiz, and then the next chapter, and then the next chapter. It's like half a dozen chapters. They're done inside of an hour and a half, and it spits out a certificate at the end when they take the little quiz that says, "Congratulations, Eric, you are now a thinning hair expert."
Right. And so, how do you get them to go online and do that? Are you using distributors to spread that gospel? Is it something that you're doing directly through the internet? How do they become aware of that program?
Yeah, all and everything. It could be through distributors who their reps are talking about it. It could be through store people talking about it. It could be through 3 or 4 industry media outlets that we're talking to at the moment, like PBA. We have webinars coming up where we talk.
Oh, nice.
We have a BTC Behind the Chair program coming up with influencers talking about it there. Nice. Another program coming up with Modern next year that we're talking about. So these industry avenues are good. Also through social media, bringing that up too. And then there's a number of other distributor-based online opportunities. Like we've been doing Facebook Live type of programs with our artists talking to hairdressers that way.
Yeah.
So we try to get, whenever there's a new account, our educators will go in and say, hey, listen, why don't you try to get at least one person in the salon to be an ambassador for this category. Doesn't even matter if it's us as a brand or not, but be an ambassador for the category. So if someone in the salon walks in with alopecia, walks in with stress-related hair loss, walks in because they're a cancer chemo patient, then there's someone in the salon who is the expert, much like if someone is the color expert or someone is the nail cutting expert. So we want to try to create a hair wellness expert, if you like, in each salon. And that's kind of our mission.
And are you having success? So now they take the course, they spend an hour and a half, they get certified. Are you seeing results from that process? Is it converting into sales at the end of the day?
I think it's a maybe. And here's the thing: as you know, at the end of the day, don't talk about it. You can't measure it. We are
it's measurable, right?
In the and that really comes back at the end of the day, I guess, to sales. I think what we are hearing is that stylists more comfortable having the conversation. It's not always an easy one,
Right.
Eric, you're losing your hair.
Right.
Oh, great! I'm never coming back. Thanks for telling me that.
And right, thanks. I didn't know that. And it has to be an easy, gentle conversation, especially in that category. It's not
right,
like
and imagine having the conversation with a woman versus a man about that. You better know how to have a bit of psychology and communication skills, diplomacy, but if you come from a place where you know the hair and scalp physiology, and you've got the certificate on the wall that says, hey, I'm a thinning hair expert, it's all good. What I'm going to tell you is information. What you do with it is your decision. Then you come across as a professional, and we're empowering the professional. Just like if I was a hair colorist saying, hey, you know what, that color that you chose is probably not going to work very complimentary on with your face and frame, your appearance, or your hair texture is not going to necessarily lift the way you want it to get that color deposited. It's the same type of conversation that we need to be professionals and have. So I think we are seeing, I think, with the accounts that are following it, that are embodying the idea, certainly like anything in this world, they're working. And it's not just a one and done. We have a number of programs. When you sign up for this program, you're also getting these quarterly webinars, messages, newsletters about new things, opportunity to jump on a group call. So these types of opportunities, it's an ongoing educational membership tribe, as opposed to again, you take an exam, right, and you forget half the information 5 years later.
Right.
Maybe 5 minutes later, I don't know. So that's an important, I think, asset for stylists.
And because it's a sensitive conversation, because it is a health issue, but it's a common issue. Some people might not be that comfortable talking about it. Some stylists, some operators might not be that comfortable talking about it. Is there, I'm thinking like a communication tool. So you give your message to the stylist/barber. The barber engages a conversation with the client. Is it easier then to have a placard on your stylist station with a QR code? I'm trying to get you.
I get what you're saying. In fact, at Great Clips right now, this month, as we're speaking, there are Bosley Miraclings up on a good chunk of those
Miraclings, right,
that has a QR code saying learn more.
Right. So now the stylist doesn't have to talk to them about it, because you know what the stylist is going to say. I'm uncomfortable about it. I'm not a salesperson. I hate to sell shit when they come in, and all that. But we as manufacturers and salespeople are like, no, yes, we want you to sell them stuff, but you can do it in a subtle way. It doesn't have to be about, will you buy this from me right now? It doesn't have to be that way. So I was going to show you a small sign that I am going to create that was given to me by a barber. And it's a great way to communicate a message without actually having to really, really get into the nitty gritty with the client about whether it's products or what. So I have a website. I have 1,000 different barber products up there. My website, the platform that my site is built on, gives me the ability for every customer that I have, to have a mobile enabled one page, let's call it a landing page. And almost like Booksy or some of the booking apps, it's you can put your hours on it, you can put they can book on it. And you can give a quote of the day if that's your thing. Or some people are religious, they put a scripture or whatever it is. Okay. In addition to that, I tell the operator, take 12 of your favorite products, and they're going to go on the bottom. And then as soon as your client clicks on one product, they're actually shopping on my website. Okay. They can do it in the privacy of their own home. You don't have to sell them anything. We're going to handle the checkout. We're going to take their money. We're going to track the sale, and you're going to get a check at the end of the month. And at the end of the quarter, I'm going to give you points. So every client that you bring, you're going to accumulate points at the end of the quarter, 4 times a year. You can shop on my truck. The points are going to equal this. And if you got $20 to spend, you can help yourself to $20. I'm trying to find every single thing that I can do to drive their sales. And when you're selling I didn't do the barber supplies necessarily because I wanted to. I did it because I had to. I was trying to continue as a rep back in 2018. Things weren't really going my way. To be honest with you, I was burning through money. I may as well lit it on fire and thrown it off the side of the ocean because I was tearing through money. So I had to do something. So I started the barber supply. I knew it was going to be challenging because barber supplies are commodity items. There's not a lot of margin in them. They're highly discounted online, et cetera, all the different reasons that you and I know not to start a barber supply. I did it anyways. I'm not sorry that I did it because we can use my barber base as a proving ground for any manufacturer that comes on this podcast. Okay, all right, that's fine. And I was going to use this sign to have the barber put it on his styling station. It's got just a small little sign. I was going to show it to you. We can't find it right now. And it had suction cups on the back of it. It suction, similar to a window cling. And the client could scan the QR code and start shopping. It's been a challenge trying to get the barbers to embrace that. But this was another idea of how can I, because you're selling them commodities. So professional beauty distributors use hair color to lock their clients in and get them to shop with them over and over and over. What does a barber supply do to get that same sort of hold on their client? There isn't one. The only color they use is temporary color to enhance a beard or to enhance a hairline. So there's no hair color, which is why beauty distributors, professional beauty distributors, by and large, don't mess with barbershops. They don't want to get in, they don't want to get involved in selling low margin items. They want to sell them hair color. So I understand that. So I wanted to create a tool that would help the barber communicate that, hey, we don't retail products here, but you can scan the QR code on that sign and you can buy anything you want. And I could still reward the operator for investing their time. Well, to make a long story very short, I still go into the same barbershops and he goes, do you have that shaver? My client wants one. And I go, bro, you could be just having them scan the thing, but it's so hard to get them to do something new or embrace a new concept. Right. It makes me insane.
No, I get it. There's a industry friend of mine. Name is Ron Rizeghi, and he has a touchscreen concept that he's getting off the ground that goes on the wall. Yeah, in a salon.
Same idea.
And you just go there and you hey, this is the product you need, and click this, and it says there, and you just click this, and then it gets sent to you. And the barber doesn't have to stock any products.
Right. I mean, the idea is earn passive income. Now you don't have to be a salesperson. Just turn your clients on to me. It's so frustrating. I thought I was going to conquer the world with that. And it hasn't really been that successful, to be honest with you. When I tell them about this app that I have, they go, well, I can get that from Booksy. I go to them, so why aren't you using it?
Yeah.
Why aren't you using it? Instead, your clients are buying shit from me at your cost, which is ass backwards to begin with, and then you're not making anything off the sale. He goes, I go, did you mark the thing up $20 at least? He goes, no, I just whatever I paid for it, I give it to him. I go, bro, you're missing the whole. It's so frustrating.
Well, again, that's where that professional difference comes in, because look. I'm a hair customer, right? I go into my barber and he cuts my hair. Now, here's the funny part. You're gonna like this one.
Yeah.
You heard it a million times. So he finishes cutting my hair and he says those magic words, "Would you like some product on your hair?" Instead of saying, "I've got this amazing,
I'm just going to put this in.
Let me just finish your hair now, and like this, and like this, and then he says, "Look, how'd you like this?" And you look at it, you're like, you should probably take one of these because then you could do what I just showed you to do. Now, instead of like me thinking, well, what product is he using? He's kind of hiding it. I think when he's not looking, I'll snap a picture with my phone, and then I'll go to Amazon and buy it. And we're losing that opportunity. We could take some of that back if we were just a little bit smarter. Now, here's the thing. So going back to this thinning hair expert program, if he knows what how to keep hair, how to grow hair, how to have the conversation, which products to use, he's got them right there. Now he can say, "Hey, I got to say it. This is the product you need to use if you want to hang on to your hair for the next 20 years. Well, if I heard that, I'd be like, sure. Hello, yeah, why not? And he says, by the way, you can get this from Amazon for sure. But if you buy it from me, you're helping me stay in business, number one. Right. Amazon don't need the money, I do. Right. And number two, first of all, I'm going to do that. And secondly, right, if I like the person, right? Secondly, you're helping our industry, small business and everything. Right. And also with me, I'm giving you techniques. I'm training you. I'm going to train you and show you how to use this thing and educate you on it. But you're not going to get that from Amazon. So I'd appreciate it if you buy it from me. Come back next time when you need it. I'll give it to you, and I'll give you another way how to use it. But that's not now you're a value, whereas Amazon is a price play. Right. Well, take one of those fakakta T-shirts, and if the guy buys the product from you, give him the T-shirt. Use your hand. Give him a free T-shirt if he buys it. I hate to sound like a carnival huckster. You know what I mean? But dealing with a barber and a stylist, it's not like dealing with a professional beauty distributor or a manufacturer. It's different. And so you have to get down on their level any way that you can. It can at times be very, very frustrating because you provide them with all these great tools. And the funny thing is, they all know how to use the technology because they're on their phones all day long and they're using Instagram and they're building these huge followings. And yeah, I can't accept it. I don't know how to use it. I'm not going to accept that. Let me ask you another question, Ian. You made a statement about medical. You said. So when you say medical, are you, just to shift gears for a quick second, are you talking about med spas or like doctor's offices or dermatology or all of the above? You name them: doctors, derms, med spas, nurses, clinics. All these folks have people walking in the door saying, I've got something going on here, or I can't grow my hair, or I've got areola here, I've got a bald spot here. I'm just losing my hair because my parents did. If you hear that, obviously that's the big androgenetic alopecia, the biggest one. Stress is causing my hair, and my hair's never been so thin before. Now, all these things can be conquered by the hairdresser, but a lot of these situations are often happening in doctors' offices and derm offices. Why not have these folks be also empowered, educated, perhaps through the Thinning Hair Expert online? Absolutely. Program, right? Because these folks are education folks. They have to go through diplomas and certificates, and they're a little more regimented than us. It actually makes more sense to try to approach them than it does. Yes, it totally is. So that's why we're starting to reach out to more of the medical community and say, hey, how can we be of service? Are you having any levels of success with that? It's early days. Too early to tell. It's too early to talk about it. We hope so. I think it's a bigger initiative than we know because there are chapters, health and medical chapters around the world. Around the country, or at least around our US world, that have hundreds and thousands of doctors who are connected and affiliated. And so the question is, how do you reach these people? Is it through Facebook's groups? Is it through LinkedIn groups? All of the above. And you've got a number of key influence leaders, these KOLs, these influencers that go onto TikTok now. There's a couple I follow. that are talking about, in 30 seconds you get, hey, I'm the derm doctor. My favorite 3 products for summer are this.
That's unbelievable. If you can get a shout out like that, that's really
right. And so maybe we need more barbers on TikTok saying, hey, don't buy from Amazon. Come to me. I'll teach you and use this one. This is my favorite putty. This is my favorite shampoo. We need more of those folks.
I just wish there was a way, we can talk about it after the interview, but if there's a way that I can help you in New England with that thinning hair expert program, it's not about, money at this point. I just want to see if I can make it work for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And see if we can get some people to actually sign up for that. I would love to, be able to serve you in that way, if that's possible. Just spreading the gospel for you and seeing if they respond to it. I had the opportunity to speak to barbers because I did one podcast and they went crazy. Like, Goldie, you got to do another one of those. That was unbelievable. And I really didn't have, even though Oscar has a massive following, I wouldn't call him a high profile, outside of the barber world. He's not really known in the beauty industry, but he was very helpful and he helped me get a lot of views. But these barbers looked at that and they said, you got to do another one. And then I said, well, I'm trying to. Then once we locked the time down this past week, I started telling some of them, I'm going to have the president of Bosley MD on, and we're going to talk about fine and thinning hair, and we're going to talk about barbers. And they went crazy. They were like, wow, tell me when that comes out. I want to see that. They really are responding well.
It could be that we could take it to your even those 500 you talked about and say, hey, look, if you take this program and finish it, Bosley MD will even give you like a product voucher that you can use on their website to buy product, to try it, get like a free try on Bosley, and something like this. So look, I'm all up for helping these folks. They put food on our table,
right? And
so to pay them back, would be a really great.
And the idea is to educate them and do it in a way so that they can educate their client, and so they don't sound like they're selling something. You made a statement about I'm putting product in your hair now. This is what it is. This is what it does. I've told them 1,000 times, when you reach for the pomade or you reach for the hair cream or whatever it is that you're going to put in your hair, once your hands touch their hair, tell them what you're doing. Don't try to sell it to them. Just tell them what you're putting in there and tell them why. And then at the end of the statement, just say, we do have it available if you want some.
Right. Well, Eric, the one difference between men and women, right, is that I think men are so visual. And so for a barber, man, I tell you what, when you turn out a client at the end, and the barbers are so excited because they're snapping their phones with the Instagram and say, wow, look what I just created. When you do that, and then you can see the spark in the client's eyes saying, oh, wow, I look great now. Now I can walk out the door and go show my wife, my girlfriend, my boy.
Right.
That's the point where you're like, hey, do you love the way you look? Remember that? What was that men's clothing line? You're going to love the way you look. Remember that? And that's the same thing. Do you like the way you look? Yeah. Thank you very much, Eric. Well, I'll tell you what. You need to take this home so you can keep doing this, and then you can keep looking hot for the next 2 weeks until you come back to me. Right. Okay, Eric, where do I get it?
Right. Absolutely. Now you mentioned this Great Clips program. Is that essentially your thinning hair expert program, branded exclusively for Great Clips? Is that the same program, or are they doing something different in there?
Yeah, well, Great Clips, of course, biggest chain of salons in America.
Right.
And they have their own Great Clips University studies and educational platforms and programs. What we did was we took the thinning hair expert program, content of the key elements of it, and we put it into their learning platform because I think they probably have some internal rules and regs that say you can't take a branded program and bring it into their universe, but you can take the key aspects, and then put it under the Great Clips Learning Center.
Right.
So we've done that there. In fact, there's a very interesting campaign that's running right now on television. So we've teamed up check this. We teamed up with the Bosley hair transplant, which you see on TV all this time, right?
Right.
And at the end of the TV ads at the moment, it says, hey, and for a limited time only, you can get a free haircut at a Great Clips salon. All you have to do is call Bosley, and then also they're going to give you a $10 off on a Bosley MD product. I mean, perfect. It's a genius program.
Yeah.
And so we're creating a lot of noise that way, trying to get, again, more, helping Great Clips get more bums on seats, we used to say that. And at the same time, getting them to sell more products so they can also, create some sales that way. But that's what some of the things that's happening over there.
Right. And is that program exclusive to them? Are you not able to promote that with any other hair care chain? Is that only?
Well, good question. I mean, we're looking at more opportunities down the road. For now, this is more of a test pilot program to see if it resonates with everyone. So we'll see. The jury's out.
I'll tell you something. There is the chains in New England. What is it? I want to say it's Fantastic Sam's. Used to be, they're actually based in Massachusetts. They're about 60 miles from where I am. I'm in between Boston and Providence right now. I've been trying to sell them off and on for years. I've never been successful. There's one owner that owns every Fantastic Sam's in New England. Okay, there's one guy that owns them all. And I have to go back in my notes, but I have done research and I have found the one girl that's like the key to make anything you want happen there happen. And I'll have to look back in my notes to find her and find out where she works and all that. Would be great. His group, there must be 80 salons in his group. I mean, it's very, very significant.
We started selling to Fantastic Sam's with Raytron in Florida. So yeah, look, we have some experience there. So
I mean, if there's a way that I can get to them in New England on your behalf, I'd be happy to do that. I did some preliminary research and I found the girl. She's obviously very difficult to get hold of, and referrals never hurt when you operate at this level. But man, oh man, what a great partnership that would be.
We'd love to have you help us with that.
Okay,
absolutely.
All right. So anyway,
just a programming note. I am going to have to wrap up probably in the next 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
I have a call coming up.
Okay. Before we do that, this podcast is powered by GoldieTV.com. Goldie TV. If you don't know my name, you're not in this game. Any barber can go to Goldie TV, and there's over 1,000 items for barbers and stylists on there. It's mostly barber orientated. We're starting to carry braiding supplies, and that is really what's making this podcast possible. I also would urge people to visit BosleyMD.com to learn more about your brand and to discover. Is there information on there on how to be a thinning hair expert?
Absolutely. There you can look on there for a link that says find an expert. You can also contact myself either on LinkedIn or email me at ianm@bosleymd.com. That's IANM for my last initial Murphy, ianm@bosleymd.com. Happy to connect you with our head of education. And we can evaluate getting your team onto a webinar today so you can learn more about this opportunity in this thinning hair regrowth category.
Excellent. I'm gonna sing your praises as much as I can in New England here. Maybe we can chat again after this. If there's any support material in terms of something I can leave behind, I'm happy to do that for you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. I had fun. I had a blast.
Great to know you a bit more, and I'm excited to see if we can partner on some future projects.
Okay, talk soon.
Bye, Eric.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time today.
No worries.
All right.